Good evening, good morning, all. I think we can begin. My name is Caitlin Edwards, and I'm the Community Events Manager here at Linux Professional Institute. Thank you so much for joining us for today's webinar, Diversity Beyond Buzzwords, Communities Driving Change in the Tech Sector. For those of you new to Linux Professional Institute, we are the global certification standard and career support organization for open source professionals. With more than 200,000 certification holders, we are the world's first and largest vendor-neutral Linux and open source certification body. We have certified professionals in over 180 countries, deliver exams in multiple languages, and have hundreds of training partners. Today, we are thrilled to have Eli von Radecki here with us. Ellie defines herself as a lifetime learner, a solver, and a fighter. She has lived in 5 countries and changed her career several times. With an educational background in social sciences and professional experience in development cooperation, Ellie never thought she would one day be involved in the tech sector. Last year, Ellie founded Fearless into Tech, a Copenhagen-based initiative to motivate other women who, like herself, lack a technical background but are willing to bring down their mental barriers and explore the programming sector. Ellie now works at the Tech Scale-Up and recently transitioned into position of sales engineer, where she helps bridge the gap between the commercial and technical sides of the product as the only female in her team. During the webinar, we are encouraging questions, so feel free to ask your questions using the Q&A in the chat box that you'll find at the bottom of your screen. I will keep track and engage throughout the webinar. This webinar will be recorded and the slides and recording will be sent out after the webinar. On that note, Ellie, welcome and please take it away. And for those of you, I will be sharing the slides on my side as we were having a little bit of technical difficulty, but we should be all seamless now. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for the warm greeting, the warm welcoming, and also thank you to LPI for the invitation and for giving me the space to share my experience and about Fearless into Tech, and also about my path into this adventure. So to start with, I would like to just, apart from the facts that you already presented about myself, Caitlin, just a little bit about myself. You could maybe change to the next slide. Yes, so I am a German Ecuadorian and I am currently living in Denmark, which is actually my 7th country of residence. I was mistaken, Caitlin, when I gave you the data. Sometimes I myself forget in how many countries I have lived so far. So yeah, it's the 7th. I have as well studied, I studied political sciences and Nordic philology, and ended up working in international project cooperation all around the world. I used to work in Bangladesh in a project in human rights, and then since moving to Denmark, I transitioned into tourism, and now I am working as a sales engineer, which is a very niche sort of position where you get to consult companies on the technical implementation of software. That's it. And now I'm really happy because the issue of diversity and inclusion is something that is very close to my heart, and I have somehow always been working to contribute somehow to this. And before I actually share the experience of how Fearless into Tech started and what we're doing, I would like to start by introducing why diversity is important and why diversity is actually more than a buzzword. If you could help me with the next slide, please. So yes, the title of this webinar is Beyond Buzzwords, and this is because diversity, inclusion are things that matter to all of us, and that should matter to society, and that should be included in all structures. But as happens with a lot of things that become a little bit of fashion, they tend to get overstretched, and there's a danger that they lose the meaning. So I would like to help understanding what is behind the importance of diversity. If you could move to the next one, Caitlin, please. So first, we have to start by understanding our biases. And please just a click if you could, yeah. And understanding our biases means, why do we have certain assumptions about things? So why are we not naturally inclusive? So exclusion, the opposite of inclusion, comes partly from some biases and stereotypes that we hold from ourselves and from our environment. Next one, please. It is a bias is like associating a fact or experience to an existing belief which we feel comfortable with and is often rooted in our society. So biases are nothing new. I think all of us are very familiar to biases and stereotypes. One of a classic example is that Latin people are always happy and always punctual, versus German people are super serious and super punctual. These are just beliefs that are ingrained in our society. So this is nothing new. We grow up with this. The next one, please. Biases become dangerous though when we are making decisions about people. So I'm not saying that it is okay and accepted to have all these stereotypes, but I think that change starts when we reflect about why we have certain sets of beliefs, where they come from. Do they come from our education? Do they come from our culture? Do they come from own experience? And how is this belief affecting us? And especially when it comes to the working environment, if we're in a position of power, meaning if we get to decide about who gets into a sector, into something, and we just stick to those stereotypes and don't really reflect about whether we have them or not, then those decisions might be biased. The next one, please. So when we start talking about technology in concrete, the bias and the power imbalances, they can appear from specific beliefs and values that the product creators are holding, and also from homogeneous data sets. And this is where a little bit of the problem of the sector starts. If you could skip to the next one, please. So keeping this in mind, keeping in mind that the danger of biases comes or arises when we are taking certain decisions, and also that it is dangerous to have homogeneous data sets or homogeneous groups. We can have a look at tech and how the sector looks now. If you could click, please. Caitlin, if you could. Yeah, thank you. So the studies at the moment, where is the diversity in the tech sector at the moment? A recent study by Stack Overflow, which is industry standard in for data and for assessing the sector in many ways. As recently as 2019 is showing that 92% of professional developers worldwide are men. And the next one, please. And 72.5% of the professional developers are white European male or from European descent. Also, 93% of all funds raised by European venture capitalist-backed companies went to all male funding teams. So that means that most of the industries or startups that are being created in the tech sector are being mainly being created by men, and the men are getting all this funding. The next one. So in an opposite, or yeah, on the contrary, like gender minorities, meaning all those persons who don't identify as men, that can be women, that can be non-gender groups, they amount to a maximum of 11.7%, and that is in the US. But we also have very bad numbers, such as 3% in certain countries. So what does that mean? If you could please skip to the next one. Yeah, thank you. So is there a reason to worry? Just click more, please. If we see these numbers like that, if we see that 92% of the professional developers are men, this translates into homogeneous groups, and these homogeneous groups are most likely also to share certain assumptions and perspectives, and they're less likely to identify their own knowledge gaps, because it's always, you probably also are familiar with it, if you we all feel comfortable around like-minded people, and that is nothing bad, because we're humans, and it is part of the human nature to look for like-minded people, like-minded friends. But the problem is that when we stay inside this bubble, we tend not to see certain things that are external to our groups. The next one, please. So when it comes to developing products in the tech sector, and when it comes to gathering data, since the data is being fed in from humans, the data can also incorporate biases, and this can misguide our decision-making process, and this can, as a consequence, also lead to less effective products and less effective services, because we haven't taken into consideration all the perspectives that are out there. Next one, please. So also a problem that emerges in the working sector is that if people don't feel that they belong somewhere, they are most likely to leave their companies. And the tech sector has a big problem with this. There is a study from 2017 that is called Tech Leavers, the Tech Leavers study. And in this study, one of the most common reasons cited by participants of the study was that they felt treated unfairly, or they even felt mistreated in their companies. And this unfairness arises when persons feel that they are somehow being encountered with certain stereotypes or biases, or a type of treatment that is different to the majority. The next one, please. Yeah, so is tech doing harm somehow? I would say that tech is not doing harm itself. Who is doing harm is us humans via the data sets and via the tech that we use. So there are some common biases that have been largely identified by now and also recognized by certain industries. One of those is, for example, the data set bias, where training data, that means like training data sets have uneven representation. So an example for that is, for example, in 2014, Amazon introduced a software tool for recruiting. They wanted to test if they could use artificial intelligence to accelerate the recruitment process and make it more efficient. But the problem with this was that they used data that they had at the company for 10 years before that. And when they fed in this information into the programs, the data in there showed that the people that Amazon had been hiring in the last 10 years were mainly men. So as a consequence, a lot of women started to be discriminated in the recruitment process. because of this failance in the data. And Amazon recognized the issue. They also tried to make some changes, but they let it fall because there are still too many flows in the system. The next one, please. Another common bias is the association bias, which means that value correlates to one another. And there are a lot of examples for that, but one powerful example is, for example, when certain communities are being over-policed because there are certain minority groups that live in those communities, and and that these minority groups are more commonly associated to crime than others. So that leads to this over-policing, but it could also be something like a translation tool, for example, that automatically identifies a pilot as a male person and a flight attendant as a female person. The next one, please. We also have the selection bias, which is when the data is over-representing a certain part of the population. This is also something that has been in the news in the last years when it comes to image recognition, for example, or face recognition. And the softwares are being trained with mostly white people, then the systems are not recognizing or fail to recognize darker skin tones, for example. The next one. We also have interaction biases, and that means that the software is learning from harmful interactions. So we can teach machines, but if that what we teach machines is also full of biases like racism or even sexist language, then the algorithms or the systems will also learn this kind of behavior, like chatbots, for example. That's a classic example for that if you train them with sexist language, they will just take over that language and they will use it as well. The next one, please. And then we also have a confirmation bias, which is that oversimplified personalization makes biased assumptions for others, excluding less popular choices, for example. And that is something that happens every day when you use Facebook, for example. Facebook has a tool for advertising, advertising jobs specifically. And this tool has, there is some evidence that this tool, for example, shows certain job ads like nursing or secretary jobs, especially to women, and taxi driver positions or janitor positions to male. But the males are from a certain ethnicity background or ethnic minority. The next one, please. So with all of this in mind, it can be very alarming to see all this data, to see black, like white and black, how the situation in the tech sector is looking at the moment, and it can be very worrisome. But there is also already some evidence out there that diversity wins, and there is like there are numbers that show that the workforce diversity is definitely good for business. There is a strong link between diversity in the workplace and also higher revenues, and the levels of innovation, of course, and effective decision making, and also low staff turnover if companies implement certain diversity and inclusion policies. Also, businesses that have a good mix of ethnic backgrounds are 33% more likely to outperform their competitors. The next one, please. Promoting diversity and inclusion in the workforce and the design of technology helps products and services function better and also appeal to more people. there are a lot of examples out there for this, and I think this is definitely one of the most important arguments for diversity, because if we want to serve a whole society with the products, with the technology nowadays, we can do so much with technology to help a lot of groups of people to improve their living situation, to make education more accessible, etc., etc. But when we don't keep cultural aspects in mind, then we don't design for the diversity of the population that is out there. We only design for certain groups, and that leads, of course, to very inefficient products. The next one, please. There is also evidence. I definitely recommend reading this report from the United Nations Technology and Innovation Lab. It's called Inclusion and Diversity, Take It or Leave It. Nice title. And they found out that 87% of the time, teams that are diverse take better decisions. So that definitely activates a lot of better business decision making. The next one, please. Yeah, and of course, there is also an economic aspect to it. So the companies that have implemented certain inclusion and diversity policies, and they're living up to it and have cultural diverse teams, they also show to outperform their peers by 33% in the industry. So with all this in mind, I think that although there is a little bit of this aspect of economics in the argumentation here, I think that it is important to say that we live in a world where we unfortunately sometimes have to bring economic arguments in order to see changes at a company level. Many companies are focused on growing, and growth often comes along with economic growth. And if certain things doesn't translate into business, then a lot of business are more likely not to do certain changes. So it is a hard path. It is difficult, but I think that it is important to do these arguments, to bring these arguments. But I think it is important to also keep in mind, or especially to keep in mind, that diversity and inclusion should become values on their own. They should become a part of the structure, an inherent part of business strategies, and not because they bring more money or more revenue to the table. And yes, the situation in the sector is not easy. There is a lot of things that need to change, but we all can contribute to changing the situation, to making things better. And one part of it is by building communities to make tech sector more diverse. If you could please move to the next one thing. So the first steps into tech can be very hard. The history of Fearless into Tech is that I was not very happy in the last job that I had last year. And I was actively looking into moving into a more resilient sector, and I had identified the tech sector as the one to be the one with future. I am a social scientist. I have never ever considered myself a technical person. I have never even considered trying out learning anything like programming and anything until then. And when I was in this job search, I realized that it was extremely difficult for me with my own background to find something more long lasting. And I started questioning why I never had given the possibility of learning programming or getting into the tech sector a real chance. And I decided or realized that I actually didn't have any arguments against it because I don't have any experience with it. So I decided that there was no, I had definitely no facts to say that I don't like programming because I have never tried it before. So the first barrier when you come from a different background, when you have dedicated your entire life to a certain area, to certain work, you become very comfortable in that, and it can be extremely difficult to challenge yourself and leave your comfort zone and try out something that challenges yourself at every single level. So overcoming the mental barriers is the most difficult step. That's one. The next step is that once you have taken that step to that you want to explore the sector and that you would like to learn something, it is extremely hard to navigate the amount of information that you find out there. The internet is a wonderful thing. It is amazing how many things we can find out there with the click of a button, or searching. But if you don't really know what you're searching for, and when you get all this amount of information, then you don't really know where to start. Next one, please. So finding the right offering becomes a real challenge because you don't really understand what you need. And this is something that a lot of people who have that tech background and who are native programmers, or who have like this affinity to tech or programming, whatever, they don't realize how difficult it can be to even understand an abbreviation or a certain, the most basic definitions for them are the most alien to us. So so that is also a super hard step to overcome. The next one, please. And once I had found something, like I did a lot of search, and I found a course, and I thought it was interesting. It was a course on web development, and I decided to sign up and see what happens. I honestly had no idea about what it could do, but I felt like walking blind a little bit, but I still started it. And surprisingly, the first courses, the first modules were like really, really fun. I was learning HTML and I was having all this fun with it. It felt like magic to me. I'm a very target oriented person. I'm also super impatient. So this discovery that I can just like write a line of something and get an immediate result was like, wow. So very mind blowing. And I was really, I also like learning things on my own, so I thought it was a good thing to do. But then over time I felt how difficult it was to keep up motivation, because of course the first problems started raising up. It started with me not understanding the basic definitions, or the basics behind all this web development and all the programming languages there. And it was really hard not to have anyone in the same situation to talk to. Yeah, so it is admirable, but it gets very, very hard when it is so alien to you and you need somebody to peer up with and do these things together with. The next one, please. So all of this leads to the fact that accessibility to the tech sector is definitely not just a matter of having a PC and an internet connection. A lot of people don't even have this. So if we want to change the sector, if we want to really transform things, we have to start by but by very first issues, and that includes, of course, the basics, like having access to PCs and internet connections. And then moving forward, it also includes things like how are we presenting the sector to everybody out there, and taking that step back. And when you are inside of the sector and already have all the information, it becomes so familiar to you that it gets very hard to understand how it is not familiar for others. But we need to take that step back. We need to think about making it understandable for everybody, and not just for those who speak the same language, quote unquote, the same language. So those are the first steps. And having all of that, all those obstacles, I decided to go out there. I remember I was talking one day to my mother, and I was a bit frustrated, and I told her that I had started this really nice course, but that I was really frustrated because I couldn't really continue, and I didn't have any friends in Denmark, and I didn't know what to do. And she said, like, but don't be scared, like maybe you can find some neighbors or something, somebody to get together with. And she gave me a little bit of a push and gave me the idea to reach out. And I decided to follow it, and I posted something on Facebook. I was just looking for one or two more persons to join me on this path, to team up with, to exchange ideas, who wanted to have somebody who was in the same situation, basically. So not tech background, but wanted to figure out what this whole thing is. And surprisingly, I got so many responses, and a lot of them were from women. And it turned out that a lot of women were in the same situation. I posted it on Facebook in a group here that is very popular here in Copenhagen among a lot of persons from other countries. And their responses were amazing. Like, a lot of people said, yeah, I also have never studied this, and I have no idea of that, but I would love to try it out. And so, without thinking too much, I decided to create a group on Facebook, and I called it Fearless into Tech, because because this is what we need. We need to change the way we see things. We need to start by changing our mindset and thinking that the tech is a scary place to be because so many men are there. We have to start stopping underestimating us. So we have started this path, and have now, you could continue, please, since this day were all started in 2019. We now have like 260 members, and the group is growing. We have more than 30 nationalities. From those 30, 10 alone are among us, the 7 board members. Because in the board group, we represent several cultures. We have 5 learning circles, as we call it, which is these are like self-learning groups where we get together to help each other in the process of learning a new skill, basically, and starting with programming languages. So before we started this, we made a little bit of a survey, and that picture that you see on the right side is it's a lovely picture. I love it. It is from our very first day, our very first event, where we introduced the initiative, the Fearless into Tech program, and the idea behind it. And it was really great because we were having problems with the Bima, and it was askew, and we couldn't get it to show the picture where it should be. And and we got super creative and got like a bag of peanuts and put it on there to stabilize it, and it was an epic moment. And this is how the whole adventure started. At that event, we invited somebody who introduced everyone to the programming languages out there. And after that, people could do an informed decision on what they wanted to learn and weren't disoriented anymore. And we gathered, the groups are like, they have 3 to 5 participants each. And we at the moment only have Python and web development, but it is as it comes. So if there is somebody who would like to learn C++, we help them organize, and they can start a circle on their own, and we put the resources, or we gather resources, we team up with companies. We also do a lot of research for open source resources out there. And we have got a lot of help and support from other Copenhagen-based communities, but also companies that have even shared some curricula for Python and web development with us. The next one, please. So our approach is a holistic approach, because we want to bundle self-learning, peer-to-peer support, networking, and career support, because we think that it is not just about getting the hard skills. Learning to program is important, but it is not the most important thing in our community. The most important thing, I would say, is helping each other out, raising each other up, learning to ask for help, like being a real source of synergies, because this is a really great group where everybody brings a lot of experience and perspectives to the table from all around the world. And we just want to make use of those resources to tap on each other's richness, basically, and profit from that, and also develop other skills that go hand in hand with that career development and career support. The next one, please. So because of Corona, our learning circles this year have been very irregular. So we haven't been meeting up so regularly. It's been very hard, and we haven't been able to move the whole learning to online, to an online modus yet. But what we did is that we started a series that is called What the Tech, and every month we invite somebody from the industry. It's mostly a woman, because we want, on the one hand, we want to display female role models who have managed to successfully navigate the sector in the one way or another. Some of them have a very traditional background, meaning they studied what they are doing and are now doing what they studied. Some others are coming from a very different place, like also with absolutely no education in software development or computing or IT, nothing, but are now working as programmers or something. So we want to display all these stories. It's not just about raising awareness of all the specific areas that are out there in tech, helping outsiders understand what a data scientist does, what are the different what are the different programming languages, what does recruitment in tech look like, etc., etc. So all of these things are important, and this is what we do with our series, and we also post them on YouTube, so you can have a look at them on YouTube if you're interested. The next one. We have also started a series because we also think that it's important to display the stories of the members of the community who are just really doing a lot of things every day. This is something that a lot of people are not aware of when it comes to implementing strategies or doing community work for increasing or closing the gender gap or something. People don't really think about all the needs of the persons. Every person has different needs and is at a different point of their life. So we need also a lot of flexibility when it comes to learning. Some women in the community have very small children, and they are still using every minute of their free time to learn to program, to do some challenges online, to use some apps, and we really need to display those stories. We need to put them out there, and that is what we're doing with our series. We want to inspire people to stick to it, to keep doing what they're doing in their own rhythm, their own pace, and we want to support them the best way we can. So we put those interviews out there too. Next one, please. Yeah, what we also have is a growing cross-regional network. We are always reaching out to other communities in other countries as well. We have partnered up with communities in England. We're also talking to one big community here in Denmark that does something different than we do. But we're trying to help each other, to learn from each other, and this is also something that helps the community, of course. The next one, please. So other benefits of the community, one is, if you could please give it a click. Yes. So we offer a safe space for gender minorities to explore coding in their own pace. This is something I already mentioned. The next one, please. And also getting support at navigating the sector and gaining tech literacy. This is very, very important for us. We want to make the sector more accessible, and we want to give access to everybody, to give access to free curricula, resources, but not only throw the information out there to the people, also guide them in the process and help them understand those materials that they are getting. The next one, please. Yeah, and we also work at building awareness on our part, or in changing the status quo. And by that, we mean our own part is meaning starting with ourselves. I have already touched on that already, that we think it is extremely important to start by reflecting about our own biases, but also about our own mental barriers. Why are we staying away from trying out certain things? What is keeping us away from it? And also this vast pool of cultural perspectives and career backgrounds working together to raise one another. It's definitely one of the main benefits of the community of Fearless into Tech. If you could skip to the next one, please. And if you are building a community, or if you also want to build one, we definitely recommend to build a strong support circle. So that means, in my case, I was extremely lucky when I reached out and so many wonderful people replied to this. I was super overwhelmed because in a matter of minutes, I had like 100 responses and people writing to me. So I just wrote in that group that I created that I really wanted to go ahead with this, but that I needed help to do this. And I was extremely lucky because I found a wonderful team that has been supporting the whole idea from the start, and we have been we've been strong together. So that's the first tip that I give you: build a strong support circle, and then also develop a strategy for the community, the goals that you want, how do you want to achieve those goals, and this strategy needs to reflect everyone's ideas and expectations as well. We sometimes we forget that when we talk to each other, what we might have in mind is not necessarily what other people have in mind. About the same thing. So it is important to align expectations and to reflect every expectation and idea in what we do. Also, it is really important to empower everybody in the team, share the responsibility, also tackle conflicts together, and of course celebrate successes together. Empowering your team is, for me, what that means with that is that I want everybody to be able to do everything. I think that we all can learn and do a lot of things. We just need a chance and opportunity to try things out. So in the community, in our team of the Fearless in Tech board, we are also exploring possibilities to, for example, rotate when we do our webinars, and when we do different things, that everybody gets a chance to try out different roles. Next one, please. Another super important one is to define the action lines, clear action lines, and also the limits. It is easy to get a lot of ideas. We have so many ideas that we would love to implement right now, but of course, we don't have the time for it, and also we don't have the resources. And we would like to be sort of everything, but that doesn't work either, because then we are not efficient. So we also had to very hard at the beginning define the limitations, put some limits for, at least at the moment. One of those limitations is that we are clearly not a programming school, as much as we would like to offer regular courses for everybody, free of charge. This is unfortunately not something that we can do as a community that we are. Yeah, and also I already said, building collaboration networks with other communities, but also with companies, is extremely important to get support, to also to get visibility. But companies can help with, small things like sponsoring with a venue, or with personnel who eventually also wants to help with mentoring, whatever. Next one, please. Yes, and we have, one of a good thing that we learned as well is that to create synergies to overcome our financial limitations. So we don't have any financial means at all, but so far we have managed quite a bit. So what do we have? We have a LinkedIn page, we have a YouTube channel, we are present in actually all social media. At the moment, we're working on our website, and we have some quite professional content for our videos out there. And how have we achieved this without a cent of money? This is because we have cooperated with each other, and we have found a way of leveraging each other. So we have a collaboration, for example, with a programmer, a web developer, a front-end developer, who is making the website for us for free of charge, as a part of her portfolio, because she needs examples for her portfolio. So she wins out of it, we win out of it, and this is a great example of how you can help each other out without any money needing to be exchanged. The next one, please. Yeah, but as well as positive things, of course, we also face a lot of challenges. One of the challenges that we had or we have ongoing is fighting these preconceptions, of course. Yeah, it is definitely difficult to enter the sector. I can say now from experience, I can say it also because I work now in the sector. I can see how lonely I am as a woman in my team. But I can also see that a lot of companies are starting to rethink their strategies to do things better, or trying at least hard to do things better. But when I talk to these companies, what I often hear is that even if they want to make their teams more diverse and hire more women, they don't find any women who apply to the positions. So that is a huge problem as well, because if we have all these strategies and things implemented, and everybody willing to make changes to the structures, uh, and there are still no qualified persons, other persons willing to enter the sector, then we definitely have a problem. So we really have to start by fighting these preconceptions around the sector and our own barriers. The next big challenge is the access to free resources and software. We are constantly lacking good software and resources because we don't have the money to pay for the subscriptions, the premium subscriptions that you often need for certain things. So that is definitely a challenge. Another challenge is could yeah, the access to adequate space. So when it was not Corona and we were meeting in the learning circles, it was difficult for some groups to meet because they were meeting either in the home of somebody or in some libraries, and that wasn't always the best and ideal space to meet for learning together and concentrating. So another one is finding mentors. We would love to pair the participants in our community or in the learning circles with mentors who can guide them through the process of programming, but we haven't still managed to find so many people out there who could support us with that. Another one is understanding and tending to the different needs of the community members. We have this very large community out there, but we are finding it sometimes very difficult to communicate with them, to actually tap into their hopes and expectations for this and what they're looking at. So this is also an ongoing challenge. Another challenge is transforming this self-learning experience into career opportunities, because what we definitely see is that a lot of people who come to the group or who start considering a career path in tech, outbranching, are in a hard situation economically, or in a point in their careers where they don't want to continue what they are doing. So they definitely need help to start in another sector and transform this learning experience into something more concrete, where that they can make a good living out of it. Yeah, and of course, lack of time and financing. We're a group of volunteers. I personally work full time, and then other members of the group do the same. So there is really little, or we're like mothers and have small children, which is also work, unpaid work, or students. So there's really little time for doing what we would love to do and for doing it in a better way. And of course, the financing part, although we manage quite fine to do a lot of things without financing, we still lack that. Yeah, so if you want to contribute to driving change together, there are a lot of things that you can do. You could start by donating your time. Um, you could donate other resources like software, or use your social networks to offer help. Also reflect about your own mental barriers and biases, and definitely becoming a workplace activist and helping make that workplace more inviting for everyone. Also challenge the status quo. Don't be satisfied by how the things are or take things for granted. Become aware of your privileges and learn to listen to others, to people who are not necessarily from your own bubble. And with this, I'm almost done, but I would like to introduce you to the team, the fearless faces behind the scenes. If you could please click, each and every one of them have their own opinion on why this community is important to them. So, Caitlin, if you could please give it a click. For Claudia, she thinks that with every learning circle that we create, we're making a difference in closing the gender gap. Kubra thinks that our community is a great place where members support each other to pursue learning new skills. Sophia thinks that we are taking concrete action to bring tech closer to people who wouldn't otherwise have get access to it, and with that we're showing that the sector is not only meant for men. And Oksana, she says that we are fighting against societal biases towards women in coding, but that we're also, of course, fighting our own biases and limits that we impose on ourselves. For Anna, she wants to believe that that the work that we do is going to inspire other women, and that also lead them to claim a place in the tech industry. And for Isabel, Fearless into Tech is the perfect place to spread the message that tech can be a great place to work for women. Thank you very much. I don't have anything else to add. I have brought a couple of links for you, some food for reflection. I have tried this all out myself. The project Humanities on how privileged I am. It's a great test, a bit scary, very accurate. Also, the project Implicit to test your biases. It's kind of fun and also very accurate. And also some inspiration for reading. And if you want to learn more about algorithmic equality, I recommend watching an interview with Peggy Johnson and Meredith Whittaker. They used to work for Microsoft and Google. Thank you. And I don't know if there are any questions.
Ellie, thank you so much. This is a fantastic presentation, so much information. Thank you for sharing your story with us too. To hear someone's personal perspectives and experiences are so important with helping, people, motivating us to kind of get into that uncomfortable space or to breaking the mold. I really like how you pointed out the importance of understanding our own biases at a community level and as well as the individual level. And that, yes, that is very scary. And I think these resources will really help us. If we can leave, we are running out of time here, but if you could potentially, close up the webinar if we wanted to walk away with one thing about building a community, what would you want us to walk away with?
I would say don't stay away from doing it. Just reach out and do it. It can be scary, it can be intimidating because you don't know what you're running, but it is necessary. We have to start making a change somewhere, and you will be surprised about how much support you get if you just go out and try it. And that is what I would like to say.
That's fantastic. Thank you again, Ellie. We really appreciate you donating your time. And thank you all for joining us. We hope, we've kind of given you a storyline to help potentially mirror in your own communities. Again, I will be sending around the presentation slides and the recording, so we'll all have access to these wonderful links. And if there is any follow-up questions at all, I will leave my contact information and reach out to Ellie and put you in contact. But thank you all so much for joining us, and have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.